What historical event 100% reads like a time traveler went back in time to alter history? Leonardo da Vinci. He could have been trying to get attention of other time travelers saying, "Hey, I'm stuck back here." There was a shipwreck in 1664, a shipwreck in 1785, and a shipwreck in 1820. Each had one survivor. Each survivor was named Hugh Williams. I would say there is significant evidence Fidel Castro. Every single assassination attempt failed, sometimes because of wildly miscellaneous circumstances, including a sabotaged diving suit that somehow got miraculously switched with someone else, who ended up drowning in his place. Dude holds the world record for over 600 attempts, I believe. The commando raid on the Norsk Hydro heavy water plant in Hardanger, Norway during World War II. The Norwegian commandos parachuted in during one of the worst blizzards on record, along with hundreds of pounds of explosives, and had to trek through the Norwegian wilderness for 15 days before they found a hunting cabin. The English commandos who were supposed to link up with got shot down, and the only reason they were able to make it to the cabin was that they found one of the commandos' sled, which he had lost as a child. After that they had to hole up in the hunting cabin for months, waiting out the weather. They survived on moss until, on Christmas morning, one of the men managed to shoot a deer. They went on to destroy the heavy water plant as well as sink the ship carrying what heavy water had been produced, effectively ending any chance Nazi Germany had of developing atomic weapons. The story is even crazier and less plausible than I've described, but I'm on mobile so I've left some things out. When Andrew Jackson's assassin attempted to shoot him, both of his flintlock pistols misfired. Andrew Jackson had to be restrained after almost beating the assassin to death with his cane. The two flintlocks were examined after the incident and found to be in good condition. During the War of 1812, seems like a time traveler with weather control capabilities started a freak tornado that effectively ended the British occupation of Washington. More British soldiers were killed by the tornado's flying debris than by the guns of the American resistance. Da Vinci. The madman designed a tank in the 1500s. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. Survived both the bombings at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Reads like a satirical time traveler story where the protagonist screws up his dates. Franz Ferdinand's assassination. It was so much happenstance, shenanigans, and tomfoolery that it's like a special achievement in a Hitman game. Not really an event, but more of a couple of subtle, though significant, influences. Eli Whitney, the guy who invented the cotton gin, helped cement cotton as a major cash crop which drove even further demand for slaves. He, infamously, made no money off the development, as it was a simple and easily copied machine, but cotton helped drive the economic growth of the South. Frustrated, he eventually abandoned efforts to profit off it and went into the industrial world, where he was a small contributor to the development of higher precision machining and design, particularly for firearms. This in turn helped drive the growth of industry in the North, which was a major factor in giving the North the might and material to defeat the South. Eli Whitney inadvertently helped start and end the Civil War decades before it happened. What time traveler was giving that guy advice and pulling strings around him? A. Tesla's AC polyphase system. 1 minute, we are in the Stone Age of electrical distribution, and the next, Buffalo, NY is being powered by the alternating current being generated at Niagara Falls by Telsa's Genius system. If the time traveler can control weather, the divine wind that stopped the Mongol invasion of Japan. The Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky was sentenced to death by firing squad, and just as they were preparing the groups to be shot, a messenger came with a letter from the Tsar forgiving them and the sentence was changed to prison labor. He later went on to write some of the most influential novels of all time. Fidel Castro's assassination attempts being dodged is so unrealistic. Really, he dodged about 600, that it feels like a time traveler went back and foiled every single one of them. If you read up on his life, you'll find there are so many times Adolf Hitler almost died, but somehow survived, that makes me think there was a time traveler war going on. A faction trying to kill Hitler, because it's Hitler, and a faction preventing his death, because the guy who would replace him was even worse than Hitler. There have been at least 40 attempts to kill Hitler after he had risen to power. Sometimes they failed, because the assailant couldn't get close enough, at least that's what they said afterwards. But a lot of them failed because of reasons that seem plausible if it happens once, but begin to smell fishy when you look at all of them. Elsa's bomb went off as planned, but Hitler, who loved to hold speeches, had finished early that day. Treskow's bomb failed, because at firstly, as a high-ranking officer of the Wehrmacht, couldn't get his hands on anything that goes boom for months, and when he finally had some, the bomb didn't explode. Talk about German efficiency. Stauffenberg could have just shot the bastard. His attempt was part of a general upheaval after all, so his chances to survive that day would have been not that bad. But he planted a bomb, because that went so well the last times. And so on. We will never know why, but somebody believed or even knew that a premature death of Hitler would have been even worse for the world than what we got. Or it was a wereaboo who wanted to see a tiger too. Who knows? The American Civil War's first real battle was at Bull Run on land belonging to a Mr. McLean. After that he said screw this, I'ma move to the country and avoid this war. He moved to Appomattox Courthouse, VA, where he surrendered to Grant, in the McLean's living room. Mendeleev, who created the periodic table, was struggling to order the elements in a specific order/pattern. He then was able to order them like we see today after having a dream where all the elements fell into place, even leaving gaps for elements that hadn't yet been discovered. I know it's not exactly a major historical event, but it's been the foundation of science for over a century. But when I first heard, I thought it was a bit suspicious how it all fell into place. Stanislav Petrov was a Soviet lieutenant known as the man who saved the world. Tensions were riding between the Soviet Union and the United States, so on the 26th of September in 1983, he was on duty for a nuclear early warning system. The system detected multiple missiles launched by the United States, but Petrov broke protocol, following his instincts by choosing not to report the danger to his higher-ups. The missiles turned out to be a false alarm, as he had thought, and, as Petrov's title suggests, he very well may have saved the world that day. Saving the world just off of a hunch definitely seems like something a time traveler might do. Sus. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Somebody throws a grenade at his car, and it blows up behind him. That's the first incident of time travel, stopping the assassination. Later, as he goes back, the driver realizes that he's on the same route where the grenade was thrown, and they try to turn around. The whole procession of cars stalls, and a guy who just happened to be sitting there goes over and shoots him. That's a second time traveler, fixing what the first had done. Since the whole thing lit off World War I and led to the rise of Hitler and then World War II, I kind of wonder what Ferdinand would have started if he hadn't been killed. It must have been pretty bad for them to send a second time traveler to put Nazi Germany back into the timeline. I've gone through quite a few comments, but haven't seen the random dude trading stocks. That has to be the biggest time traveler story, though not necessarily altering history in an obvious way. We'll need to try find what the guy called himself. Basically random dude who no one has ever heard of arrives in NYC and starts buying shares in a market slump. Makes money on every single trade. Share price is falling. He buys it. Just after he buys it, it starts rising. He sells as it turns and drops. But he's doing that across the whole share market. Insider trading is suspected, but he's not making or taking phone calls, and there's no way he's gotten in on seemingly everything. Also, no one knows who he is. Literally no one has ever met this guy before. Makes a crap load of money in very little time. Gets arrested on suspicion of fraud, because no one is that lucky. Says something along the lines of, "I know I shouldn't have done that, but I got carried away with all the excitement." Bail is set at, if I recall correctly, $1 million, which is immediately paid by another guy no one has ever heard of. They both leave and poof. No records of either of them existing prior to the trading or bailout. They're just gone. Search is conducted and it comes up with nothing. Just whoever has been working in the Simpsons writers' room. I'd say the Battle of Midway, the major turning point in the naval war in the Pacific. The battle destroyed the single most powerful naval strike force in history and shifted the balance of power to the US. The actual course of events during the Battle of Midway was a series of near misses for the US until, conveniently, two separate airstrike forces arrived at the same time to decimate 3 out of 4 Japanese aircraft carriers. Absolutely amazing providence. On Christopher Columbus's first voyage there are reports of strange lights following them as they approach land. I think these are time tourists going back to watch it all happen. Jack Ruby clearly was sent to kill Lee Harvey Oswald so no one would ever discover it wasn't him who killed Kennedy. I have an older one. Sometime between 200 BC 100 AD. The ancient Greeks had invented an early prototype steam engine, Eolipile. But they really didn't give it much further thought. The ancient Greeks were clever, but somehow, no one seemed to realize the potential of this invention. It never developed beyond being more than just a curiosity. Had these ancient Greek designs been more widespread, there is a good chance the Industrial Revolution could have happened 1,500 years earlier. But honestly, it seemed like someone was intervening to prevent these designs from being disseminated. Julian the Apostate, a Roman emperor from the 4th century that tried to reverse back from Christianity to paganism, which is exactly what a time traveler Roman weebo would do. Also, there is the famous incident of his death, which was caused by a spear injury in a battle, which he took because he forgot to put on his breastplate before the battle started. Something clearly done by a time traveler who is not familiar with the world around him, a time traveler trying to conceal his journey back to his own time. Nothing can convince me that he was not.